A massive alien city floated silently above Earth in orbit, its shape unlike anything humans had ever seen, jagged towers of black metal and glowing crystal lights rising and twisting in patterns that made no sense to human eyes. Ships in orbit around the planet went silent as crews stared at the spectacle below. They had been invited to a summit. The message from the aliens was simple but firm: you were expected to attend. It was described as honorary, yet every officer knew there was a danger lurking behind the invitation. The human ships moved cautiously toward the city, the hulls creaking slightly under the artificial gravity of orbiting Earth. The main crew in the command ship exchanged glances, their faces pale in the soft glow of control panels. Everyone felt the tension. The city above seemed alive, shifting slightly in the atmosphere, like it was watching them, as if its towers could sense fear. Communication from the aliens began as strange symbols and sounds. On the monitors, the translation computers struggled to interpret it, but the general meaning was clear: welcome and obey the ceremonial rules. Captain Harris, leader of the first human delegation, felt a shiver run down his spine. He had led countless diplomatic missions, but never one like this. The crew was nervous yet professional, scanning the city for hazard. Sensors picked up massive energy signatures and unusual atmosphere patterns below the city. There were jagged mountains jutting from the planet like black teeth, glowing rivers of molten light flowing between them. Alien structures moved slowly, as if breathing and changing form. With no regular rhythm, the patterns made some crew members dizzy as they stared at them through the windows. The alien message repeated itself in bursts of sound and light. This time, the computer translated it into a single line: humans were expected to attend. All preparations will be observed. Do not falter. The meaning was not threatening, yet the tone made the crew uneasy. It was an honor on one hand, but on the other, it carried a quiet weight of judgment. Captain Harris spoke over the intercom, telling his crew to keep focused, to maintain composure. The shuttle moved closer, scanning the landing zone. The first human delegation would descend. Soon the chamber below would hold unknown numbers of aliens, their shapes and abilities yet unseen. As the shuttle passed through the protective barriers around the city, the view became more extraordinary. Jagged mountains rose from the planet below, black peaks lined with rivers of glowing liquid moving slowly between them. The air shimmered as if the atmosphere itself was alive. Enormous alien structures shifted with moving patterns that changed every second. The lights reflected off the surface of the human ship, making it feel like they were flying through a storm of color and energy. The crew whispered to one another. The images were beautiful, yet terrifying. The sense of smallness and vulnerability was overwhelming. The shuttle approached the landing platform, a massive disk of metal suspended above the jagged terrain. It was large enough to hold dozens of ships simultaneously, yet completely empty. Now the surface pulsed faintly with light, as if acknowledging their arrival. The hatch opened slowly, revealing a ramp that extended down toward the platform. Captain Harris felt the tension rise. Each crew member checked their equipment. Their weapons were kept in cases, not in use, but ready in case the ceremony turned hostile. The first footsteps on the alien platform echoed loudly. The air was heavy with a strange scent that humans could not identify, but it made breathing feel different, almost thick and metallic. The delegation moved forward, following alien directions shown through glowing symbols projected into the air. No aliens were present, yet the symbols shifted like living signs, pointing toward the main summit chamber. The mountains loomed on the horizon. The rivers of molten light glowed brighter as the humans advanced, and the massive structures continued to move in patterns that seemed to observe them, as if the city itself were alive. The summit chamber rose ahead of them. Massive doors of unknown metal curved up to the ceiling, the walls covered in more alien symbols, shifting constantly. As the humans approached the doorway, they could see faint shapes behind the transparent panels, moving slowly. Some shapes were large, some thin, but all had an aura of danger. The atmosphere was tense. Every step felt like a test. Every movement monitored. The delegation hesitated for a second. Captain Harris motioned forward, telling them to continue. They cannot retreat now. Inside the chamber, the floor was smooth and black, reflecting the pale lights above. Patterns of glowing symbols danced across the walls, creating an effect like a living painting. The humans stepped forward, their eyes adjusting to the strange illumination. The shapes behind the panels were now more clear. Dozens of aliens watched them silently, some standing motionless, while others seemed to shift slowly, showing long limbs or strange appendages. Their eyes, if they had any, glowed faintly in colors. Humans could barely comprehend. A silence heavier than any sound filled the room. Anticipation crackled in the air like electricity. The aliens did not speak in words, only projecting faint vibrations through the floor that humans could feel in their bones. It was a strange communication method, almost like feeling the thoughts of another being through vibration alone. The symbols on the walls continued to change at random, yet some seemed to mirror the humans' movements. A pattern emerged, as if the aliens were trying to understand them through reflection. Every gesture counted. Every hesitation noticed. The humans felt exposed, yet they pressed forward, following Captain Harris carefully. The chamber doors closed behind them with a soft hum that resonated through the floor and walls. The sound made every human flinch. The room was now fully enclosed, and the aliens were revealed in full for the first time, their forms intimidating, some taller than any human, several thinner, yet faster looking. Their skin or armor covered in reflective plates that moved slightly, like liquid. The delegation realized that some aliens were observing with curiosity, while others displayed cold menace. Their eyes, or glowing patterns, seemed to judge every human movement, every blink, every breath. Captain Harris motioned for the delegation to stand still, signaling to study the aliens before making any move. The chamber seemed larger than it first appeared. More platforms and levels hidden in the shadows made the humans feel as if the room was infinite, yet closed. The symbols on the walls pulsed faster and brighter, almost like a heartbeat synchronized to the humans' nervous pulse. The delegation understood in that moment that this was not just a meeting, this was a test, a challenge, a silent question asked by the aliens that humans did not yet know how to answer. A faint vibration moved through the floor, almost like a warning, a signal that the aliens' patience had limits. The delegation froze. A sense of anticipation and fear grew. The lights on the walls reflected off the alien forms, making them appear larger and more threatening than reality. The humans could feel the weight of dozens of eyes and minds upon them. It was clear that any wrong move could have consequences more dangerous than any battle they had faced before, yet retreat was impossible. The doors had sealed them in. The humans stood at the center of the chamber, glancing at one another, unease heavy in their voices. Their eyes darted to the shifting alien forms around them. The symbols on the walls pulsed again, brighter this time, showing new patterns that humans instinctively recognized as instructions. Yet no voice came, no sound, only vibration and light. Every member of the delegation felt the tension rising higher, each second stretching endlessly. The feeling of being watched and judged pressed down on them. Captain Harris raised his hand, signaling the delegation to wait silently. The aliens' presence filled the chamber completely, some curious observers leaning closer behind the panels, others remaining distant, yet radiating a sense of danger. The humans had never felt anything like it before. The anticipation, an unknown threat, made their hearts race. The lights of the city outside the panels reflected faintly on the floor, giving the chamber an otherworldly glow. And then the chamber went completely quiet. The humming of the doors stopped. The floor beneath them was steady. The aliens did not move, but the tension was unbearable. Each second stretched longer than the last. The humans realized that the entire summit was a test of courage, observation, and composure, and there was no way to know what the aliens would do next. The delegation's eyes locked on the largest alien in the room, its form towering, and still the air seemed to vibrate slightly around it, as if it were alive. The humans knew in that instant that whatever came next would change everything. The humans stood frozen in the alien chamber, their eyes scanning every detail, every movement of the observing creatures. The floor beneath them pulsed faintly with light, as if responding to their presence. Captain Harris signaled for calm. telling the delegation to remain composed. Yet every heartbeat seemed louder than the last. The alien symbols on the walls shifted rapidly, forming patterns that no human mind could fully understand, but somehow the message was clear: obey the rules of the summit and survive the test. Suddenly, the floor trembled and panels began to rise and fall, creating a path that twisted and turned like a snake. The humans realized that the chamber itself was moving, testing their balance and nerve. Each step was a challenge. Every misstep could lead to a fall into unseen pits below. The aliens did not speak, only watched the humans' reactions, silently judging their ability to adapt. The delegation held hands for balance and moved slowly forward, their eyes fixed on the glowing path ahead. The first obstacle appeared as a series of floating platforms, each hovering several meters above the floor. The platforms shifted without warning, some rising, some lowering, and some disappearing altogether. One miscalculated step could send a human plummeting into a pit of glowing liquid. The soldiers led the way, using ropes and improvised supports, helping the civilians to navigate the floating path. The aliens behind the panels leaned closer, some tilting their heads, as if curious, others remaining still, their forms reflecting the pulsing light of the chamber. Captain Harris noticed that the chamber responded to human movement. The floor pulsed brighter. When someone stepped too heavily, it seemed to test their control and focus. The delegation realized that every action was being measured, every decision. Observed the symbols on the walls now formed patterns resembling doors and pathways, yet none opened. The humans hesitated, trying to understand the rules. The aliens' presence created a tension almost unbearable. The shadows of the observers stretched across the floor, making every movement feel heavier and more important than normal. A sudden vibration ran through the floor, sending a small human scientist stumbling, her hands grasping at the glowing platform below. She barely regained her balance. The aliens reacted almost imperceptibly, some shifting forward slightly. As if acknowledging the human struggle, the delegation began to understand that this was no ordinary test. It was a trial to see if humans could maintain composure under stress and think clearly when danger was all around. The floating platforms now moved faster, creating a rhythm that required perfect timing to navigate. The humans split into smaller groups, each taking a different path through the obstacles. The soldiers covered the civilians, guiding them through gaps, and over sudden drops. One soldier held a hand out to a frightened civilian, helping them jump from one platform to another. The aliens behind the panels leaned closer, their glowing eyes studying the humans with intensity. The delegation could feel the pressure mounting. Each step they took was a test of courage, skill, and intelligence. The chamber itself seemed alive, reacting to their thoughts and movements. The walls shifted, revealing a series of laser grids, each one moving unpredictably, cutting through the air with blue light. The humans had to time their movements precisely. A single touch would have been painful, if not deadly. The delegation ducked and jumped over the lasers, using every ounce of agility. The soldiers coordinated with each other, signaling when to move, when to wait. Every second counted as the aliens continued to watch silently. Their judgmental gaze felt like a physical weight. The humans knew that failure was not allowed and retreat was impossible. Captain Harris noticed that some symbols on the walls now formed shapes resembling creatures and traps. They realized that the aliens were teaching them the rules through subtle hints. Observation and intuition were required more than force. Every move was analyzed, every hesitation noted. The chamber expanded in size, revealing more floating platforms, walls that shifted unpredictably, and small energy pulses that shot from the floor, testing reflexes and decision, making the humans pressed forward, ignoring fatigue and fear, knowing that any mistake could end their mission. Suddenly, a platform beneath one of the civilians began to tilt violently, threatening to throw them into a pit below. A soldier reacted quickly, grabbing the person and pulling them to safety. The aliens observed the rescue quietly, some seeming to nod in approval, while others remained neutral. The humans realized that courage and teamwork were also being evaluated. The pulsing light of the chamber now covered the walls and floor like a heartbeat. The energy seemed almost sentient, reacting to stress and movement, testing endurance and adaptability. The delegation moved into a section where gravity shifted unexpectedly one moment. They were walking upright, the next sideways, or upside down. They had to hold on to rails and cables to avoid being flung into open space. The humans coordinated breathing and steps using hand signals and verbal cues to survive the shifting environment. The aliens behind the panels remained perfectly still, their long limbs and glowing patterns, reflecting faint light like mirrors showing every detail of the humans' struggle. Captain Harris led a group into a narrow corridor filled with moving spikes. The walls shifted rhythmically, as if breathing, each spike retracting and extending in a sequence that required careful timing. One wrong move would have caused severe injury, or worse, the humans watched each other's movements, signaling when to move and when to hold back. The aliens' glowing eyes seemed to track each person individually, as if measuring courage, patience, and intelligence with perfect precision. Suddenly, a massive holographic alien appeared in the center of the chamber, a giant form towering above the humans, projecting an image that filled the space. Its presence caused the floating platforms to vibrate, the lasers to intensify, and the walls to pulse faster. Did not speak in words, only energy and symbols flashed across its form, conveying a single message: survive this trial and prove your worth, or be left behind in darkness. The humans felt the enormity of the challenge, their hearts pounding, yet they continued forward, relying on instinct, teamwork, and courage to navigate the obstacles. The corridor ended with a final platform hovering over a glowing pit that stretched deeper than any human could see. The delegation hesitated, knowing that this was the last test of skill, balance, and nerve before the chamber revealed the next stage. The aliens' energy pulsed brighter, signaling that every decision would be observed carefully. Each step would be noted in their evaluation. The humans gathered courage, holding hands and moving as one group, every step calculated, every leap timed perfectly. Captain Harris signaled the group to advance together. They jumped onto the final platform, reaching the other side safely. The glowing pit remained below them as the chamber seemed to pause for a moment, as if acknowledging their success. The alien hologram shifted closer, its glowing patterns changing to something resembling approval. Though still unreadable, the humans caught their breath, knowing that they had survived the first stage, yet realizing that the summit held far greater challenges ahead. The delegation moved toward a massive door at the far end of the chamber, symbols swirling around its frame, indicating the entrance to the next stage. The aliens behind the panels remained, watching every movement silently, some curious, others still cold, and calculating. The humans could feel the pressure of the observer's gaze like a physical force. Every step forward was an achievement, yet also a signal that the trial was far from over. The chamber itself seemed to hum with energy, anticipation, and tension building with every heartbeat. Captain Harris motioned for the humans to step through the massive door as it slowly opened. A strange light spilling into the chamber, illuminating the alien observers in new ways. They now appeared larger, more imposing, every detail of their forms clearer. The humans felt the enormity of what awaited them beyond the door. The delegation knew that the trial was only beginning, and that each stage would be more dangerous, more challenging, and more revealing than the last. Yet they pressed forward, united in determination, courage, and the will to survive. The massive door slid shut behind the humans, sealing them in a new section of the summit. The air was colder, here a faint mist curling along the floor, and clinging to their legs the walls shimmered slightly, as if made from liquid metal, reflecting distorted images of their movements. The delegation paused, their breaths forming clouds. In the chill, the alien symbols on the walls pulsed softly, sending vibrations through the floor like a heartbeat. In the silence, the humans realized immediately that this chamber was different. It was alive and aware. The corridor ahead twisted and bent impossibly, the walls shifting and moving subtly with each step. The humans felt like they were entering a living maze. The floor was smooth yet slippery. Every movement echoed unnaturally, as if the chamber amplified sound. To test focus, the shadows along the walls flickered and stretched longer than natural, creating illusions that made the humans hesitate. Some glimpsed shapes moving in the corners of their vision, but when they turned, nothing was there, only the shifting walls, and the faint glow from the symbols. Captain Harris signaled the team to stay close, knowing that splitting up would be dangerous. The soldiers held hands with civilians guiding them through the corridors. The maze seemed to respond to their hesitation, moving subtly to create more confusion. Every turn presented new puzzles, shifting doors, and invisible barriers. Humans had to rely on instinct, teamwork, and quick observation. The alien observers were now projecting their presence through faint energy currents the humans could feel. Pressure on their minds, small nudges guiding their attention towards certain paths or testing their resolve. Suddenly, a floor panel dropped slightly beneath one civilian, a young engineer. She screamed and fell forward, just catching herself on the wall. The energy currents pulsed rapidly, vibrating through the humans like a warning. The aliens behind the panels shifted closer, some leaning with curiosity, while others remained still, radiating menace. The delegation realized that failure to adapt, even momentarily, could cost them greatly. The maze was not just a physical challenge, it was psychological. Every sound, every shadow, every movement tested their nerve and ability to think clearly. The humans moved cautiously down a narrow corridor where the walls pulsed like living skin, each pulse synchronized with the faint hum of energy flowing through the chamber. The patterns on the walls seemed random, yet when observed closely, they hinted at safe paths or hidden dangers. The soldiers used hand signals to coordinate their moves. The civilians followed, trembling, yet determined. The air felt heavier. Here, every step a test of courage, patience, and awareness. The shadows stretched and twisted around them, creating illusions of creatures just beyond perception. Captain Harris noticed that some shadows seemed to mirror their actions, yet others moved independently, as if anticipating human movement. The delegation realized that the maze was learning from them, adjusting obstacles in real time. Every hesitation measured, every bold move observed. The alien symbols now formed shapes resembling gates and doors that flickered between reality and illusion. Humans had to step forward, trusting instinct rather than sight, each decision a gamble against unseen forces. The first trap appeared suddenly. The floor ahead cracked, revealing a shallow pit filled with faintly glowing spikes. The humans had to leap together, timing their jumps perfectly to avoid injury. The soldiers guided the civilians, holding hands, steadying them through the air. Some stumbled, but were caught mid-leap. The aliens' energy pulsed faster. Their presence felt closer, as if their judgment pressed on the humans' minds. The delegation could feel adrenaline sharpening their senses. Every sound, every shadow, every pulse of energy became a signal to act or survive. They moved into a wider chamber where walls shifted constantly, forming new corridors like the maze itself was breathing. The humans had to choose paths carefully. One wrong turn led to dead ends or areas that tilted dangerously, forcing careful balance. The shadows here were darker, deeper, appearing to form shapes. With long limbs and eyeless faces, they lunged toward humans in quick flashes, but vanished before contact, leaving only fear and doubt. The aliens observed silently their patterns, shifting to increase complexity and test decision-making. Captain Harris led a team toward a faint glow at the center of the chamber. The light revealed a series of platforms floating above a pit with no visible bottom. Each platform moved independently, rising and falling unpredictably. Humans had to step precisely, using timing, coordination, and courage. Every leap calculated. The soldiers guided civilians, signaling when to jump, when to wait. The shadows flickered around them, some shapes climbing the walls as if curious, others hovering in midair watching each movement with silent judgment. The energy symbols pulsed faster, as if applauding or warning. A sudden vibration ran through the floor. The platforms tilted violently, threatening to fling humans into the pit below. The delegation held each other steady, their grip tight. Eyes focused. The shadows danced closer, twisting and stretching toward them, almost like testing reach and reaction. Humans had to move as one team, coordinating jumps and timing despite fear and exhaustion. The chamber seemed to sense their resolve, challenging them further with shifting platforms, rotating corridors, and pulsing energy currents, forcing adaptation and alertness at every second. Captain Harris noticed a pattern emerging. The symbols on the walls suggested safe zones and paths, Yet they were subtle, requiring observation and instinct. The delegation followed the hints, carefully stepping lightly and quickly. When needed, some members stumbled, but others helped them recover immediately. Teamwork and courage were now as important as agility or skill. The shadows seemed to recede, slightly acknowledging human intelligence and coordination. The chamber itself pulsed brighter in response to their synchronized movement. The humans felt the maze, observing yet learning from them. They reached a central platform where a faint energy doorway shimmered above them. The shadows here formed more complex patterns, almost humanoid, yet alien in every detail. The humans could feel the aliens' presence more acutely, almost as if invisible hands pressed against their minds, testing strength of will and clarity of thought. Every breath measured, every movement weighed. The humans had never experienced anything like it. The delegation gathered courage, holding hands and stepping toward the shimmering doorway, trusting instinct over sight. Suddenly, the platform tilted violently, sending one soldier sliding toward the edge. The young engineer reached out, grabbing him just in time, saving him from falling into the abyss. The aliens observed this quietly, some shifting with what seemed like approval, others still cold and calculating. The humans realized that courage, initiative, and protection of one another were also being tested. The floating platforms now moved faster, requiring precise timing, coordination, and unwavering trust. The delegation pressed forward despite exhaustion, fear, and uncertainty, knowing that retreat was impossible. Captain Harris led the final leap onto the last platform. The doorway shimmered brighter, forming an arch that seemed alive, pulsing with alien energy. The shadows around them twisted one last time, forming grotesque shapes before dissolving into the walls. The humans knew that the maze had judged them, survived their tests, and allowed passage to the next stage. The alien presence remained powerful and unreadable, but respect was implied in the subtle shifts of energy. The delegation stepped through the energy doorway, their senses flooded with new colors, lights, and vibrations. The chamber behind them dissolved almost instantly, leaving no trace of a maze or the shadows. The humans realized that this was not only a test of skill, but of heart and mind. Their courage, intelligence, and teamwork had been measured and survived in a way that no human could have anticipated. Yet the summit had far more challenges awaiting them, dangers they could not yet imagine, and mysteries that would push them to the limits of human endurance and will. The humans stepped into a massive chamber, the air thick and heavy, a low hum vibrating through the floor. The walls glowed faintly, with alien symbols pulsing like hearts in the dark. The chamber seemed endless, with shadows stretching into corners. The first thing the delegation noticed were the guardians looming above them, figures taller than any human, armed with strange energy weapons and glistening armor, their forms sharp and angular, moving smoothly as if anticipating every human step. Captain Harris signaled the delegation to stay close and silent. The soldiers led the civilians forward cautiously, every step measured and deliberate. The guardians did not attack, yet their presence felt threatening. Each movement by the humans was mirrored subtly by the guardians, their glowing eyes or energy patterns tracking them with perfect precision. The humans felt their hearts race, every nerve alert, knowing that one mistake could trigger a deadly response. The floor vibrated faintly in rhythm with their pulse, as if the chamber itself were aware of their fear. Suddenly, the first guardian stepped forward, moving with impossible speed, striking at the air with its weapon, a pulse of energy slicing through space, narrowly missing the humans. The delegation scattered, instinctively diving behind low walls and floating platforms. The guardians advanced in coordinated patterns, testing reflexes and reactions. The humans fired stun rounds at the creatures, observing how they adapted, instantly dodging and blocking attacks without hesitation or error. The soldiers quickly realized that these guardians were not simple beings, but highly intelligent and extremely dangerous. The chamber itself responded to the clash, shifting walls and platforms, creating more obstacles, forcing the humans to adapt constantly. The Guardians moved in synchronized ways, attacking from multiple directions. Humans had to use strategy and quick thinking, relying on coordination and instinct to survive. Every soldier was stretched to their limits. Each decision counted, every leap and dodge crucial for survival. The civilians followed instructions, trembling yet determined, knowing that panicking would cost them dearly. The glowing symbols on the walls pulsed rapidly, signaling energy surges that added danger to the environment. Captain Harris noticed a pattern in the Guardians' movements. Every strike followed a rhythm that could be predicted if observed carefully. The delegation adjusted their tactics, using timing and teamwork to counter the attacks. The Guardians adapted quickly, however, shifting their patterns to increase difficulty. The humans realized that survival required both intelligence and courage. The chamber continued to shift, walls rising and lowering, platforms rotating and tilting, forcing balance and agility. While the Guardians pressed forward, their energy weapons pulsing brighter with each attack. A sudden tremor shook the chamber. A platform beneath one civilian tilted violently, threatening to drop them into a pit of glowing energy. The soldier nearest reacted, instantly grabbing the civilian. Just in time, the Guardians observed this silently, some shifting slightly in what humans interpreted as approval, others remaining stoic. The humans understood that the aliens were testing more than physical skill. Courage and teamwork were being evaluated as well. The chamber itself pulsed with energy. Reacting to every action, the walls shimmered and moved, creating a labyrinth that forced careful coordination and constant awareness. The humans pressed forward, navigating moving platforms and rotating corridors. The Guardians advanced like hunters, their energy weapons emitting faint hums of power. Each step forward required precise timing, each decision a gamble against speed and strength of the alien opponents. Captain Harris coordinated signals between soldiers, guiding civilians through gaps and across platforms. The shadows of the Guardians stretched across the floor, making movements appear larger and more threatening. Every second tested endurance, focus, and nerve. The humans were aware that this chamber was alive and aware, observing and reacting to them continuously. Suddenly, a Guardian launched itself from a raised platform, striking toward two humans on the floor. They barely avoided the energy pulse, diving into a small alcove. The Guardians shifted instantly, creating new attack angles, forcing humans to adjust constantly. The chamber's shifting patterns added to the challenge. Platforms rotated, walls moved unexpectedly, and energy pulses shot from the floor in random bursts. The delegation used ropes and handholds to steady themselves, jumping and climbing with precision. The Guardians adapted instantly, their patterns changing to counter human tactics. Captain Harris noticed faint patterns in the walls, symbols indicating safe zones and warning areas. The humans used these subtle hints, navigating the chamber with more confidence, relying on instinct and observation. Yet the Guardians remained unpredictable, their attacks fast and deadly. The civilians followed guidance from soldiers, holding on tight, using every ounce of balance to survive the shifting platforms and sudden hazards. Every leap and dodge tested courage and focus. The chamber pulsed with alien energy, glowing brighter as the humans demonstrated skill and teamwork. The delegation reached a wide platform where several Guardians stood, blocking the path forward, their weapons charged and ready. The humans paused, calculating the timing of movement and attack. The soldiers coordinated gestures, signaling simultaneous leaps and movement, using momentum to confuse the Guardians while keeping civilians safe. The Guardians reacted instantly, yet the humans managed to advance slowly, using clever timing and coordination, their courage unwavering despite fear and exhaustion. The glowing walls pulsed faster, showing new symbols, providing subtle guidance for the next movement. The chamber seemed alive, adapting to human ingenuity and skill. Suddenly, a burst of energy shot from the floor. A Guardian lunged forward, striking at a soldier, narrowly missing the target. The humans reacted instantly, diving to safety. Another Guardian aimed a pulsing beam at a civilian, but was blocked by a quick hand from a soldier. Captain Harris observed every action, timing every movement signaling for calculated advances. The Guardians shifted constantly, using speed, strength, and intelligence to test reactions. The humans pressed forward together, moving as one unit, trusting coordination and instinct above all else. The chamber responded with faster shifts and more dangerous angles, requiring precise timing and attention. The humans finally reached a higher platform, a wide bridge stretching across a glowing pit. The Guardians advanced in a final synchronized wave, their weapons pulsing with energy. The humans coordinated jumps across moving panels, some falling slightly, but caught by team members. The Guardians observed every movement silently, some seemingly impressed by coordination and courage, others showing nothing. Human hearts pounded every second. The chamber pulsed with alien energy, reacting to the human skill and bravery. Every leap, step, and dodge measured and noted by the unseen intelligence controlling the summit. Captain Harris signaled the final advance. The delegation moved together across the last section of the bridge. The Guardians stood watching silently, energy weapons lowering slightly, as if acknowledging success. The humans caught their breath, realizing that the chamber had tested physical skill, intelligence, teamwork, and courage to the extreme. The shadows of the Guardians receded slightly, and the pulsing symbols on the walls shifted, forming an energy doorway, indicating the path forward. The humans knew they had survived this trial, yet the summit held far greater challenges ahead, full of unknown dangers and tests beyond imagination. The humans stepped through the glowing energy doorway, leaving behind the Guardians and the shifting platforms. The air felt heavier. Here, the floor glowed faintly, reflecting off the walls in soft pulses of light. The chamber opened into a vast space, a domed ceiling far above, shimmering with moving patterns of energy that stretched to the horizon. The humans stopped their steps, taking in the magnitude of the new environment. The floor beneath them pulsed, slightly vibrating with alien energy, as if the chamber itself were alive. Captain Harris motioned for the delegation to stay close. The soldiers formed protective circles around the civilians. The glowing symbols on the walls shifted constantly, guiding movement, but not revealing the true dangers. The humans noticed the first signs of the core. At the center of the chamber, a massive pulsating sphere of energy floating above the floor, connected to glowing conduits stretching to every corner. The air shimmered around the core, and the temperature seemed to rise slightly, creating tension and unease with each step toward it. The humans approached carefully, observing the energy field surrounding the core. The symbols on the walls now formed warning signs, patterns indicating unstable areas and possible traps. Each pulse from the core created ripples across the chamber floor, shifting panels and floating platforms subtly moving. With every vibration, the delegation had to maintain constant balance, awareness, and focus. One wrong step could bring disaster. The civilians followed the soldiers carefully, holding hands, relying on guidance and trust to move through the treacherous space. Captain Harris noticed faint shapes flickering around the core, figures formed from energy, pulsing faintly like the ghosts of the alien architects of the chamber. They moved with rhythm, synchronized to the core, sending waves of pressure and light. The humans realized immediately that this was the heart of the summit, that the core itself tested courage, intelligence, and coordination of all who approached. The delegation felt the weight of observation from every pulse, the chamber reacting to their presence as if it could sense doubt or hesitation. Suddenly, a surge of energy rippled from the core, shaking floating panels and tilting floors. The humans clung to handholds, ropes, and one another, navigating the sudden shifts with skill and focus. The soldiers guided civilians over gaps and across rising platforms. The core pulsed faster, its light brightening, creating illusions and shadows that twisted across the floor walls and ceiling, testing perception and reaction. Humans had to trust instinct while observing carefully the alien patterns there. Movements precise to survive the rapidly changing environment. The first obstacle appeared as a series of rotating energy pillars, each pulsating with blue light, moving in complex patterns. The humans had to time every step to avoid being struck. The civilians hesitated. The soldiers grabbed them, guiding leaps and holding hands, steadying them through rotations. The core's energy pulsed in sync with the pillars, sending vibrations through the floor, signaling pressure and danger. The humans realized that physical skill alone would not be enough. Observation, quick thinking, and courage were equally essential, each movement measured by an intelligence beyond comprehension. Captain Harris led a small team across a wide platform hovering above a pit of glowing energy. The platform tilted slightly underweight, forcing careful balance. The shadows around twisted in forms resembling guardians from the previous chamber, yet more ethereal and faster moving. They lunged, as if testing reflexes, but vanished before contact. The humans leaped and dodged, holding hands, steadying one another. The symbols on the walls shifted subtly, indicating safe paths. The delegation realized that the aliens were teaching without words, using experience and observation to guide survival, while still testing nerve and coordination. The chamber expanded, revealing a section filled with floating rings of energy, each moving independently and creating narrow pathways. The humans had to jump from one ring to another, using timing and balance, every second critical. The soldiers coordinated with hand signals, guiding civilians across the shifting rings. The energy pulsed faster, creating the sensation of a heartbeat in the chamber. The floating platforms rotated, randomly forcing humans to adapt constantly. The core seemed aware of their every move, reacting instantly, increasing difficulty when hesitation or missteps occurred. Captain Harris noticed subtle patterns forming on the floor and walls, hints for timing and path selection. Using them carefully, the humans moved forward with determination, courage, and concentration, yet the chamber continued to challenge them. The floating platforms shifted, energy rings rotated, and shadows flickered, creating illusions that forced trust in observation and instinct. Every leap and careful step tested skill, endurance, and teamwork. The humans pressed forward, aware that failure was not an option and retreat impossible. Suddenly, a pulse from the core sent a wave of energy across the chamber. A floating platform tilted violently. A civilian stumbled toward the edge. Captain Harris reacted instantly, reaching out, grabbing the human, saving them from falling into the glowing abyss. Another soldier extended a hand, securing the group. The aliens observed silently, some shifting slightly, as if impressed, while others remained unmoved. The humans realized that courage, initiative, and protection of one another were being measured more than agility alone. The chamber responded to their resolve, shifting the environment more rapidly, testing nerve and skill. The humans reached a central platform directly beneath the core. A series of floating conduits stretching from it to the walls pulsed with energy, every step forward creating vibrations. The delegation had to coordinate precisely, moving together, holding hands, maintaining balance, and timing every leap across floating segments perfectly. The shadows twisted faster, creating illusions of alien figures lunging toward them, forcing quick reactions. The humans focused, relying on instinct, observation, and teamwork, navigating the shifting platforms with courage despite fear and exhaustion. Captain Harris signaled for the final advance toward the core. The humans leaped from one floating segment to another, each step synchronized, the energy pulsing faster, creating a sense of urgency and tension around them. The shadows of previous guardians flickered briefly across the floor and walls, creating haunting illusions. The humans pressed forward, their hearts pounding, awareness sharpened, every nerve focused on balance, timing, and courage. The core's energy pulsed like a heartbeat, sending waves of pressure through the floor, reacting to human skill and bravery. The delegation reached the final platform directly beneath the core, the energy pulsating intensely, the floating conduits forming a protective barrier around it. Captain Harris motioned for the humans to pause, observing the patterns. The symbols on the walls shifted, forming subtle hints for stabilization and safe steps forward. The humans held hands, their courage unwavering, their focus complete, knowing that this stage required skill, intelligence, teamwork, and fearlessness in equal measure. Every movement calculated, every leap timed perfectly to survive the alien test. A massive alien figure appeared above the core, projecting energy symbols that filled the chamber, its presence almost godlike, creating waves that tilted platforms and caused conduits to pulse brighter. It did not speak in words, only projecting energy, and symbols signaling that the humans' next steps would determine their worth. The delegation steeled themselves, taking careful, measured steps, holding hands, maintaining focused timing and courage, aware that the chamber was alive and testing every action. Observation and decision. The humans advanced across the final floating segments, reaching the core successfully, every leap precise, every decision measured. The energy symbols pulsed in response. The shadows around twisted and receded slightly, as if acknowledging human skill, courage, and coordination. The delegation caught their breath, aware that they had survived the core chamber, yet understanding that the summit held even greater challenges, mysteries, and tests beyond imagination, waiting to push them further and reveal the true purpose of the alien trials. The humans stepped away from the glowing core platform, entering a vast, new chamber. The air thick with energy vibrations rippled across the floor, making their muscles tense. The walls shimmered with faint alien symbols, pulsing rhythmically, as if alive. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, filled with moving patterns of light that twisted and flowed, creating shapes humans could barely comprehend. Captain Harris signaled for the delegation to stay close. The soldiers formed protective circles around civilians, every step measured and cautious. The chamber was unlike anything humans had seen before. Floating platforms rotated slowly in midair, walls shifted subtly, creating new passages and corridors. The air hummed faintly, each pulse sending vibrations through the humans' bodies, as if testing endurance and awareness. The glowing symbols on the walls provided subtle hints, but no clear instructions. The delegation understood immediately that the next trial would test not only physical skill, but mental focus, courage, and the ability to work together under extreme pressure. Suddenly, the floor trembled. A small panel beneath a civilian tilted, sending them sliding toward the edge. A soldier reacted instantly, grabbing the person and pulling them back to safety. The guardians or watchers of the chamber observed silently, some leaning slightly, as if curious, others remaining unmoved. The humans realized that every action and reaction was being measured. The chamber itself seemed aware, shifting obstacles in response to hesitation or mistakes, testing nerve and decision-making. Simultaneously, Captain Harris led the humans toward the first obstacle, a series of rotating energy rings hovering above a pit filled with glowing light, each ring moving independently. Humans had to time leaps precisely or be thrown into the dangerous pit. The soldiers coordinated hand signals, guiding civilians across the rings, balancing timing and courage, every leap critical. The shadows flickered across the walls, creating illusions of alien forms lunging at them. Humans had a trust instinct and observation to survive the shifting platforms and unpredictable patterns. The next section revealed moving walls covered with sharp angular energy spikes, each wall shifting rhythmically, creating narrow corridors. Humans had to slide, duck, and jump through gaps or risk injury. The delegation moved cautiously, timing every step and movement to avoid contact. The soldiers held hands with civilians, steadying them. Through each section, the chamber responded to human coordination, adjusting speed and spacing of the walls, every success increasing difficulty, yet teaching survival. Through observation and courage, Captain Harris noticed subtle symbols forming on the walls, hints for safe passage. Humans used these patterns, carefully advancing across floating platforms and through narrow gaps. The guardians observed silently, their glowing eyes reflecting faint light from the walls, some leaning forward with interest, others still and cold. The humans felt the weight of observation, every step measured, every leap calculated. The chamber pulsed with alien energy, reacting instantly to human movement and decision making. Suddenly, a surge of energy shot from the floor, tilting a wide platform beneath several humans. One civilian slipped toward the edge, another soldier reacted, grabbing them in time, saving them from falling into a pit below. The guardians observed quietly, some shifting slightly, as if approving the humans' courage and teamwork, while others remained neutral. The delegation understood that protection of one another, initiative, and bravery were measured along with skill, precision, and intelligence. Every move important, every hesitation noticed. The chamber expanded, revealing a series of floating conduits leading toward a central area, a faint glow at the end, signaling the next stage. Each conduit moved slightly with the chamber's pulse. Humans had to step lightly, balancing on narrow paths using handholds and ropes. Every step carefully measured. The shadows flickered, creating illusions of alien forms lunging or reaching toward them, forcing rapid reactions. The humans pressed forward, holding hands, steadying one another, relying on observation, timing, instinct, and courage to navigate the dangerous paths successfully. Captain Harris observed subtle shifts in the energy patterns, signaling timing for movement and placement. The delegation followed, closely, leaping across floating conduits, over gaps, and through rotating barriers. Each step synchronized coordination and courage critical to success. The chamber pulsed faster, reacting to stress and skill. The humans adjusted instantly, every misstep avoided, every leap timed perfectly, their confidence growing. Despite fatigue and fear, the Guardian's presence was felt more strongly now, as if the chamber itself was alive and learning from human responses. Suddenly, the final obstacle appeared, a wide, rotating platform above a pit filled with pulsating energy. The platform shifted violently, creating imbalance. With every step, the humans held hands, moving carefully using balance ropes and each other to stay upright. The soldiers signaled for synchronized jumps, timing every movement precisely. The shadows around twisted and flickered, forming alien shapes, lunging toward them in illusions, forcing focus and rapid response. The humans advanced inch by inch, courage and determination keeping them moving despite exhaustion and fear. Captain Harris led the final leap onto a small floating segment. The delegation followed carefully, every step calculated, every move measured. The chamber pulsed with alien energy, reacting to skill, teamwork, and bravery. The shadows flickered around, creating illusions that tested observation and focus. The humans pressed forward using instinct and coordination, their hearts pounding, awareness sharpened, every nerve alert, their courage unwavering, knowing that the next stage would demand even more from them and reveal new dangers and challenges. The Guardians remained silent, observing every action closely. The humans finally reached a central platform beneath a massive energy orb similar to the core, but larger and more intense. The pulsing light reflected off the walls, creating disorienting shadows and reflections. Every step toward it measured by the chamber. The glowing symbols shifted constantly, providing subtle hints for balance, timing, and coordination. Captain Harris motioned for the delegation to pause, gathering focus and courage before the final approach to the orb. Every leap and step forward now critical, every decision observed by an intelligence beyond human comprehension. The Guardians, or Watchers of the Chamber, moved slightly, as if acknowledging progress, their energy patterns pulsing faster. The shadows twisted and flickered, creating alien illusions, testing perception and focus. The humans pressed forward slowly, cautiously, leaping from one floating segment to another, holding hands, steadying each other, using observation, timing, and courage to survive the shifting platforms and energy surges. The chamber pulsed, with alien power reacting instantly to their movements, increasing difficulty and creating new challenges in real time. Captain Harris signaled the final approach toward the orb. The humans advanced across the last floating segments, every step carefully measured, every leap precisely timed. The shadows of Guardians flickered, creating the sensation of lunging hands or forms reaching toward them. Yet the humans pressed forward, trusting observation, coordination, and instinct. The orb pulsed brighter, each step closer, sending vibrations through the floor that increased tension and awareness. Every action recorded, measured, and tested by the alien intelligence controlling the summit. The delegation reached the platform directly beneath the orb, pausing to steady themselves. The Guardians' forms shimmered above, slightly bending forward in silent observation. The humans held hands, courage unwavering, their focus complete, every leap, step, and adjustment demonstrating skill, intelligence, teamwork, and bravery. The chamber pulsed faster, as if acknowledging success, yet signaling that the summit held far greater trials, mysteries, and dangers waiting to push humans beyond imagination and reveal the true purpose of the alien tests. The humans stood beneath the massive energy orb, the pulsing light casting long shadows across the chamber. Every heartbeat echoed through their minds, as if the orb itself sensed their presence. Captain Harris held his hand up, signaling for calm. The soldiers formed a protective circle around the civilians. The Guardians shimmered above, observing silently, their energy patterns brightening. With each subtle movement, the humans felt weight pressing on their senses, as if every thought and intention were visible to the alien intelligence controlling the summit. Suddenly, the orb shifted slightly, pulsing brighter and sending ripples across the floor. The floating platforms beneath humans vibrated warning signals. The Guardians moved closer, hovering in synchronized patterns. The humans understood immediately that this was the final test. The orb emitted a wave of energy, shaping illusions of alien forms, moving rapidly around them, creating disorienting shadows and shapes. The delegation had to maintain focus, courage, and timing, every second counting toward survival. Observation and skill. The chamber responded to hesitation or fear, increasing difficulty with every misstep. Captain Harris signaled for the team to move forward slowly. The soldiers guided civilians across floating segments, adjusting speed and position with each pulse from the orb. The shadows twisted and flickered, creating illusions of reaching hands or lunging creatures. Humans had to trust instinct, observation, and coordination to avoid traps and falling into the glowing pits. The Guardians' energy pulsed faster, reacting to every human movement. Each step a challenge, requiring courage, focus, and trust. Between team members, a sudden surge of energy shot from the orb, sending a floating segment tilting violently. A civilian stumbled. The nearest soldier reacted instantly, grabbing them, saving them from falling. The Guardians observed silently, some tilting forward slightly, as if approving courage and quick action, while others remained cold and unmoved. The humans realized that every action, initiative, and teamwork was being measured along with physical skill. The chamber pulsed with alien intelligence, recording every leap, decision, and coordination in real time. The humans pressed forward, advancing across rotating platforms and floating conduits, every step requiring timing and balance. Captain Harris noticed subtle symbols forming on the walls, hints for safe passage and energy shifts. Humans used these patterns carefully, adjusting leaps and positioning. The Guardians mirrored movement, subtly challenging reflexes and precision. The chamber itself seemed alive, shifting walls, tilting platforms, and pulsing energy in response to human courage, skill, and coordination. Every move critical, every hesitation observed. Suddenly, the orb pulsed violently, sending ripples across the chamber. The floating conduits rotated faster, and the shadows flickered, creating alien illusions, lunging and twisting toward humans. The soldiers coordinated signals, guiding civilians, holding hands, steadying them through sudden movements, every leap timed precisely, every grip tight. The Guardians advanced in synchronized patterns, testing observation, courage, and adaptability. Humans pressed forward inch by inch, trusting instincts and teamwork to survive the rapidly changing environment. Captain Harris led the team toward a central platform directly beneath the orb. The floating segments shifted beneath them, creating a wave-like motion requiring balance and precise timing. Every step critical. The shadows around twisted into forms resembling past Guardians and alien observers, testing memory, focus, and reaction speed. The humans pressed forward, ignoring fear and fatigue, trusting coordination and instinct. The chamber pulsed faster, every movement measured, every leap observed. The orb's energy surging in rhythm with human courage and determination. A sudden barrier of energy formed in front of the humans, a wall of bright, pulsing light, flickering with alien symbols. The Guardians hovered near the edges, moving smoothly with perfect synchronization. The humans realized immediately that this was the final puzzle, a test of timing, skill, observation, and nerve. Captain Harris calculated the pattern, observing the pulsing rhythms, signaling the team for synchronized movement across floating segments, leaping precisely between gaps each step. coordinated with breathing and observation, every leap critical to avoid energy discharges and shadows lunging in illusions. The delegation moved carefully one step at a time, floating segments, tilting under weight shadows, flickering, creating alien forms that seemed alive. Humans adjusted leaps with soldiers guiding civilians across gaps. And tilting platforms, the orb pulsed brighter, sending vibrations through the floor, forcing focus and coordination. The Guardians advanced slowly, their energy patterns glowing intensely, testing human resolve and skill. Every decision, every step, every leap a measure of courage, intelligence, and teamwork. The chamber itself seemed to respond to their success, increasing intensity with each synchronized movement. Captain Harris noticed the orb beginning to shift downward, pulsing waves of energy through the chamber. The humans gathered courage, preparing for the final leap across a wide gap toward the central platform. Directly beneath the orb, floating segments moved in complex patterns requiring perfect timing. The shadows flickered and twisted, creating illusions of alien forms lunging toward them, forcing quick reactions. Humans held hands, steadied each other, leaped together, trusting instinct, observation, and coordination. The Guardians observed silently, their energy pulsing with intensity, almost acknowledging the humans' skill and courage. The humans reached the final floating segment beneath the orb. Captain Harris signaled the final approach. The delegation advanced slowly, every step measured, every leap carefully timed. The shadows around twisted one last time, forming alien illusions that lunged and flickered, but vanished before contact. The orb pulsed faster, energy rippling across the chamber, sending vibrations through every human body. The Guardians hovered closer yet remained silent. The humans knew that this was the moment of truth, their courage, intelligence, and teamwork about to be fully measured. The humans stepped onto the central platform beneath the orb, the pulsing light washing over them, the floating conduits settling into stable positions. The Guardians observing with energy pulsing like slow breathing. The symbols on the walls shifted, forming patterns that conveyed acknowledgement and approval. The humans felt a sense of relief and accomplishment, every member of the delegation aware that they had survived the ultimate test of skill, courage, and coordination. The chamber pulsed one final time, sending a wave of energy that seemed to embrace rather than challenge. Captain Harris looked around at the delegation, civilians and soldiers alike, catching their breath. The Guardian shadows receded, slightly forming elegant arcs around the orb. The pulsing energy stabilized, the alien patterns shimmered, as if communicating without words. A sense of understanding passed through the humans, realizing that the trial was complete. The summit was not a trap or punishment, but a test of human courage, adaptability, and teamwork. The orb's energy rippled once more, signaling the end of the trials and the approval of the alien intelligence. The humans stepped back from the central platform. The chamber walls began to shift, revealing an exit path. The Guardians moved aside, allowing the delegation to leave unimpeded. The floating conduits shimmered in fading light, the air lighter than before, as if the chamber itself had acknowledged human achievement. Captain Harris led the humans along the exit pathway, every step confident despite exhaustion. The symbols on the walls pulsed softly like a farewell gesture. The humans felt a profound sense of accomplishment, their courage, intelligence, and unity tested and proven beyond expectation. As the humans left the central chamber, entering a corridor that led toward the surface of the alien city, the Guardians hovered quietly at the edges, their energy pulsing slowly, almost like a heartbeat. The humans observed silently, realizing that their trial had been a challenge, a lesson, and a measure of human resilience. The floating energy platforms gradually ceased movement. The shadows faded, leaving only soft, glowing light. The delegation walked forward, knowing that the summit held secrets yet to be revealed, but they had survived the ultimate test of skill, courage, and teamwork. Captain Harris looked back, once seeing the Guardians and the pulsing orb, a quiet nod passing through the delegation, each human aware that this experience would change them forever. They moved toward the final exit, the chamber behind them, dissolving slowly into alien light, leaving no trace of the trials, only the memory of courage, determination. In survival, the humans knew that the summit had tested them beyond imagination, and that they had proven that humans were capable of facing the deadliest challenges and emerging victorious against an intelligence far beyond their understanding.